What's up, everybody? It's Friday, November 7th. This is a Friday night college football show with myself and Ben Pritchett, a.k.a. Natural Slugger. Come on, Ben. You have to look into the camera.
Yeah, I'm looking in the camera.
All right.
Who sings that song, dude?
Are you serious?
What is that? We need to really work on your music choices for our lead-ins, because that was pathetic.
You've never heard that
Seriously.
song?
No. Who is that?
Wow.
Is
One
it
of the
Miley?
biggest songs of the year.
Is that Miley Cyrus or something?
Yes, or something.
Oh, okay. I nailed it then.
You did not
what are you
nail
worried
it
about?
because you said, "What song is that?" Oh my gosh! Only has the most hits on the YouTube channel or something like that. I'm pretty sure.
We just lost 2 viewers.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
We're gaining people.
We should lose
We should
viewers
because
for
you
that.
don't know the song "Wrecking Ball" by Miley Cyrus. Have you not seen any of the people that are like on the wrecking ball with just their wife beater and underwear?
No. All I saw her twerk on that one guy. That's all I saw.
You saw her twerk on that one guy. Well, good. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
What's the guy? You know what I'm talking about?
Beetlejuice?
The Beetlejuice.
He was dressed
Oh.
like Beetlejuice. Robin Thicke.
Robin Thicke. There you go.
Oh man,
I like Robin Thicke.
I cannot believe I'm gonna have to pull up a picture so you can see.
I've met Miley Cyrus. I've talked to her
Oh
a few
my
times.
gosh!
I mean,
Don't even
she's
pull
been
that.
I am
You
not
are
name
name
dropping. Okay, I am name dropping, but
Okay, so what did she
I've
say
done-
to you? I want to know what she said to you.
She said, "Damn, you're fine," and I was like,
She
"No."
did. That's what she said.
I said, Miley, you need to relax. You need to relax. This is the first time we met, and I'm married. And she
So what
obeyed.
you're saying is she came in like a wrecking ball.
Yes. No twerking though. This was pre-twerk, Miley. But no, actually, she was pretty shy and didn't say much.
Oh really? Because I thought you were telling the truth.
Yeah, I know. I lied.
All right. This is I cannot believe you haven't seen this.
Are we gonna play it?
No, I don't feel like we should play it. It's a family friendly show. So we'll show the non-naked version.
She has a naked version of her song.
You haven't seen any of that.
No, I love the logo though on top of her face. We need to use that for future advertisement.
There.
Insiders TV with Miley
All
Cyrus.
right. Well, that's probably enough of that. I can't believe I'm just floored that you haven't even heard about that or seen everybody making fun of it.
No, I'm sorry. But
You're worse.
You guys love
You're
me.
worse than Drew Dinkmeyer with popular culture.
I'm better than Drew Dinkmeyer.
You didn't know the Miley Cyrus wrecking ball.
But Drew just strikes me as that guy that like only knows stuff from the early '90s. I don't picture him as a guy that would be. I at least know something from the early 2000s. But I mean, since I had kids, man, if it's not Dora the
All
Explorer
right, all
or
right.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Bishop Sankey, I don't know it.
So we spent 4 minutes talking about Miley Cyrus. We are going to now get to college football. Maybe we can just edit this out on the recording. But this is the Friday night college football show. Myself, David Kitchen, a.k.a. Soccer Dave, with Ben Pritchett, Natural Slugger. Ben, your article this week. Oh, do you want me to? Yeah,
I mean, you can pull the screen off of me if you need me to, but
if I need you to.
yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
So let's talk about my article.
Let's talk about your article. You wrote about FanDuel this week. FanDuel always has a different number of slates. You got the early only, the top 25, the late. What is your favorite slate to play?
Oh, that is a really good question, man. Did you go to journalism school in this week that we had off? That's a good question. I like the early slate. If I was going to put a large sum of the bankroll down, it would be on the early slate. Just because I kind of like the way I can form the plays. I like that I get to use that Cal USC game with Marquise Lee and Brandon Mitchell, which we'll get to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the early slate is my favorite slate. Late slate is really complicated because in that slate you're going to get the San Diego States of the world and the Monroe versus Utah State, I believe, and then you have San Diego State and San Jose State and Fresno, Wyoming. If you don't follow the West Coast conferences, then you're gonna have a difficult time trying to navigate the late slate. But top 25 is fine. I'm cool with that one too.
Okay. Well, let's talk then about this USC game because I feel like there's a lot of value in it. It's included in the early slate. Obviously, they're playing Cal. A lot of people like to pick on Cal because their defense is atrocious. They've had a few decent weeks, but you're you just don't know what you're going to get really out of this USC offense. Are you rolling the dice? You've got. I know you're looking at Silas, or you're looking at Marquise Lee. I'm looking at Silas Red as a guy that could be a big time back at a low time price.
You know, I can't get behind the running backs just because they're both evenly priced. I debated whether to go Buck Allen or Silas Red in the article. I weaked out and put both of them. I find with if you can pick the right one, it's going to be a gamble. Obviously, Silas Red is the feature-ish back, but Allen is the more talented. He had 3 touchdowns last week. I think he's the best back of the two. Definitely when it comes to talent. Silas Red is pretty much done. 1 touchdown and 70 something carries does it for me when I look at another guy that has 5 and 40 something, which is just enough to slide me over the edge when it comes to a 50-50-ish timeshare. Marquise Lee is kind of a bold play just because he hasn't done anything this year, and then he comes back from the injury, goes for 5 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. I think with when you're facing Cal, you throw everything out of the window and you just load up. That's just the way you got to do it. And this is one of those games. David, what about Kessler? Do you like Kessler in this matchup?
It just depends on FanDuel. His price is really attractive. He hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's thrown more than 2 touchdowns, but maybe once this season. So
Mm-hmm.
if there was ever a game for him to throw more than 2 touchdowns, it would be tomorrow. So I like him, especially if you're going to be playing some of the high priced guys. I know that your favorite play is the highest priced guy. With playing him, you're going to have to find value some places. So I would I don't know, depends on how I construct the lineup.
I can't get over the ability of Marquise Lee, and it's been a struggle for me this entire season. I just can't get over it. And when Lane Kiffin departed, I was back on the Marquise Lee bandwagon because I thought that we had a chance to really see what he can do, and we did until he got hurt, and then it kind of derailed everything. Comes back from the injury, he's perfectly fine. Runs for 71-yard touchdown last week. So he's facing the weakest secondary in college football. The weakest, and they play, and it's a perfect matchup for him to go off. And like you said, Kessler has a chance to throw for 3+ touchdowns. Well, who's he going to throw to? Silas Red isn't much of a receiving back. Neither is Buck Allen. So you've got to assume it's either going to be Nelson Aguilar, Xavier Grimble, or Marquise Lee. And I'd rather push my chips into the extremely talented Marquise Lee, who was the Biletnikoff winner last year. I mean, I can't move past that. I just really can't. I know I know that they had a better quarterback situation going last year, and things were a little bit more stable. But Marquise Lee's my boy, and even if he's 6,400, I'm in him. I can do this. When it comes to Draft Street, I think his price is in the almost 12 range, if not more. At 11 to 12, I'm out on Draft Street. So if you're wanting to move this play over to another site, I wouldn't necessarily do that.
Yeah, I mean obviously we're talking about FanDuel. Draft Street always kind of adjusts their prices based on their algorithm, based on who they're playing, and people that play Cal tend to be more expensive on Draft Street. So I understand not wanting to pay up for them. I'm talking about getting Silas Red for 5,600 on FanDuel.
He's 5,900.
5,900. Whatevs. He's a guy that I think if they're going to move the ball, he's going to get some run, and he's the back that I think has the best chance under 6K in that value range of scoring 2+ touchdowns. So that's why I think that for me, he
How can you say he can score 2+ touchdowns?
because they're playing Cal.
No. I get that, but how can you say Silas Red can score 2+ touchdowns? He has only scored one all year.
He's back from injury.
So he's played in like 4 games. I'm getting high pitched. So sorry.
That means you feel strongly about it.
Give me Buck Allen. If you're wanting to play this game for the touchdowns, you can't go Silas Red. You have to go Buck Allen. Sorry.
Okay. Do you want to hear what Silas Red did last week against Oregon State?
140 yards, no touchdowns.
140 yards and no
I know what he
touchdowns.
did.
So
you're talking
so
to me.
How are you saying? But how are you saying that I don't know? He had 22 carries.
What did he do the week before that, little Mr. College Football expert?
He had 10 carries. It was against.
How many yards did he have?
He had 0 yards. You're acting like Cal is this. Again, you're acting like the Cal is this steel curtain. They obviously are going to give up some yards. He had 22 carries for 140 yards. What we're talking about is opportunity. So if you dismiss that play, I'm just telling you, you're going to look foolish tomorrow. 2 words, D'Angelo Yancey.
Oh man, my boy D'Angelo Yancey. You follow me on Twitter and then you disappoint.
Did you tweet Silas Red and tell him that he was in your column this week? Is that why you're fading him?
I didn't fade him. I put him in the column, man. It's up to you to make the choice. Do you want to go with the premier back, which is Silas Red, obviously, or do you want to go with the more fun? It's kind of like, when you're picking out a woman, do you pick the woman that's going to be a challenge, or do you pick the woman that's safe? Give me the challenge. Give me the girl that I have to go after, and I have to see what she can do. And that's Javorius Allen or Buck Allen, whatever you want to call him. Yes, Javorius Allen is Miley Cyrus, and then if you want to, Silas Red is, I don't know,
No,
Pam
Ben,
Tillis.
Listen to me.
He's boring.
Sometimes the challenge isn't worth it. You don't want to have that baggage. Just trust me. Do not. You want to go with Silas Red. Look at me. You want to go with Silas Red. Yes, you do.
No,
You might not admit it, but you do.
it won't happen. But okay.
All right. Well, I don't know what to say to you then, because
I know this is going to burn me because Silas Red is kind of the feature back, but I don't want. I actually don't want either of these guys. But if I have to pick one, it's not going to be Silas Red.
Okay. Well, your loss, Miley. Let's. By the way, the USC predicted to score 37 points against Cal. They are a 17-point favorite, so With over 5
Test.
touchdowns, there might be some room for the featured running back that had 140 yards last week. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on, though, to
Go for it.
the early slate. I want to just talk about quarterback some. Who do you like at quarterback in this early slate that's not a wide receiver?
Ooh. I mean, it's pretty evident. I'm a Johnny Football guy. I'm a Jordan Lynch guy, but Jordan Lynch isn't playing this week, so we'll go Johnny Football. Definitely the kind of guy. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns last week, 4 through the air, 2 through the ground. It's against UTEP. They have a bad enough, a horrible enough defense that teams stay with them long enough for Manziel to go ape crazy in the statistical category. So he puts up all kinds of points. And so with the fact that his defense keeps teams in games makes me want to use him every week, because I don't have to worry about, Texas A&M getting up so much that they take, Manziel out and they put in Jokel. I'm not worried about that because I know Texas A&M's defense is going to give up some points. Looks like Dak Prescott is out, or maybe going to be out, because his mother passed away from a bout with cancer. So he might be missing this weekend, which means Tyler Russell is going to be playing. Tyler Russell's more of the passing quarterback, which is where Texas A&M has a lot of problems. They can't defend the pass. So if you take all these things into account, you have to wonder if this game is going to be close enough to where Manziel goes off, and I'm not worried about it. I think Manziel is the safest play, even at 13K, even 3,000 more than the number 2 guy. I'm still in on Johnny Manziel as my top quarterback for the early slate. If you decide you don't want to go Manziel, you have Jameis Winston from FSU, who has struggled the past couple weeks, but I think he's solid enough. He's playing Wake, who's defeated. Michael Campanaro means way more to that team than you know. And so when he's down, you saw early in the season when he wasn't playing, it seemed like Wake was out of sorts. They almost lost to a FCS team the first game of the season. So you have to wonder if they're going to be able to hang with FSU. And that is also a worry, because if Winston gets out way ahead, and Devontae Freeman, the running back for FSU, has seemed to become more prominent with each week. So he had 3 touchdowns last week. So we don't want TDs vultured from Winston. I like to see Winston run a little bit more, but at 10-3, he's okay. If you're not going to use those guys, Cody Fiardo. What do you think about Cody Fiardo, David?
You know I'm a big Cody Fiardo fan, Ben. And I think that he's a solid play tomorrow, and his price. I mean, let's just look at where his price is, and
yes.
On FanDuel, he is extremely cheap at 7,300, playing against Colorado State. I know it's on the road. However, it's not like Colorado State has this great defense. I think Colorado State's going to run it a lot with Capri Bibbs. I don't even know if that's how you say his name, but that's how I say it to myself, is Capri Bibbs, which is kind of funny because there's 2 girly articles of clothing if you think about it. But I know, I just blew your mind.
You did. You really did. I hadn't caught that. I caught the Capri, but the Bibbs part I didn't catch.
Yeah, I guess other babies wear bibs that are not girls. I don't know. But as far as Fiardo, I mean, what did your boy Grant Hedrick do last week from Boise State against Colorado State?
Man, I mean, I don't want to ever tout myself, because I know as an analyst you're always wrong and more than you're right.
You don't ever want to tout yourself. Okay. All right, I'll play along with that.
I do not tout myself. Check my Twitter feed. I do never tout myself, but I do.
You said you don't want to tout yourself.
Okay. Good point there, Mr. Kitchen.
You want to tout yourself all night long. If there was a limit to touting yourself, you would surpass it.
That's true. Yes, I definitely. Okay, so I want to tout myself, but I have enough self-control where I don't tout myself. I did say, whether you want to call that touting or whatever, I said avoid Grant Hedrick last week against BYU. I said, but he is every bit in play the next week. And boy, he went off for 6 touchdowns against Florida or Colorado State. So, and Colorado State is like a bottom 5 defense against quarterbacks. I mean, they're awful. So they average like almost 300 yards passing and all these things. And the thing is with Fiardo is he's showing a different side of himself this year in that he's not dependent on the running game to get points. He will do that. And he will, if they're a lot of times if they're behind, it seems like he's on the run more. But he's going to get 10 plus carries. Usually finds his way. I'm looking at his averages. It's like 15 plus carries. And he's throwing around 300 yards. I mean, he's had 2 games this year where he threw for 393 and 389.
Yeah.
So if you throw some touchdowns in there, you're right. You're right, David. He is a poor man's Johnny Manziel this weekend against Colorado State. So, yeah, I shouldn't say Manziel is the end-all, be-all when you have Fiardo in the mix.
I just think that with Fajardo, he gives you a good chance. If he can get you 25 or 30 points, that means that Manziel would have to go like 50 points or more, which he could do. And obviously, he gives you the safety of doing that with other value plays. However, there are some nice featured backs in the early slate, other than Silas Red. So I don't want to discount those guys. You talked about Tevin Coleman with that Indiana game that has a high over-under. I really like him. The Oklahoma State running back, Roland, and I mean, both those guys are in play. Capri Bibbs is another guy who I think is in play. So I like spending on running back with Fajardo tomorrow more than risking it with Manziel and then 2 cheap running backs who you're just not sure what they're going to do.
Did you read my article on Capri Bibbs?
No.
Okay. Did you really not?
Yes, I read it.
Okay. You should. The thing with Bibbs is he has 15 rushing touchdowns, which a lot of people don't keep up with those guys. And I understand, why would you keep up with Colorado State? They've been miserable until lately. But as their progression has come, they've had a little bit more wins. They've played better, and with that, they've had 15 rushing touchdowns out of Bibbs. He leads the nation in rushing touchdowns. So at 8,100, he's right there with Melvin Gordon and Amir Abdullah. So he's a safer bet against Nevada, who's pitiful against the run defense. They're bottom 5 against run. So you have a team that in Colorado State that's bottom 5 against the pass, and then you have a team with Nevada who's bottom 5 against the run. I don't know what's going to happen in this game, but there's a chance for one of those things is going to be right. Either Bibbs is going to be insanely great, or Fajardo is going to be insanely great, or they both could be. But the Bibbs is the biggest thing that he has had. Let me look at this. Scored 3 touchdowns in each of his last 3 games and 4 over his last 5. There's nobody else that's anywhere close to that. 3 touchdowns. We're not talking about 1 or 2. We're talking about 3.
We're talking about 3?
We're not even talking about 1. We're talking about 3.
So that kind of brings me back to my point, though. As far as he's a safe option, I'd rather use him with a safer guy like Fajardo and then go Coleman or Roland and then mix them with Brandon Mitchell. And then sprinkle in maybe a little Wimberly in there. You know what I'm saying? A little Lee in there. Get a little balance. Then you can go a little balanced tight end. You don't have to go men tight end.
Wait, big boy. Can you do all that?
Sure.
Have you tried that?
I can.
Okay, we'll do that later. Let's talk about what you just brought up, Brandon Mitchell. Can we please talk about that?
Yes.
That's
you better be right on this guy. It's all I know.
Oh, my gosh.
You are staking your reputation as a top 5 college football daily fantasy expert.
Well played there, Mr. Kitchen. Way to put me in my place. So, yeah, D'Angelo Yancey screwed me last week. I still love the guy. I mean, anybody that's gonna give me love back, I'm gonna be behind. But and Yancey could be fine this week. He's playing at Iowa. I'm not gonna tout him, obviously, but Brandon Mitchell is the equivalent to D'Angelo Yancey was last week, so I'm a little scared. But with Mitchell, he is a find. He is NC State's quarterback. He is their quarterback. They're roughly their starting quarterback. We'll get to that here in a second. But he is listed as a wide receiver on FanDuel at 5,000. So he's a cheap wide receiver play, but he's a quarterback. So if you're watching this show and you aren't paying attention to Brandon Mitchell, you are crazy, because there's not so many times that we get this chance to take advantage of a little glitch and use it to our advantage. And this is a big opportunity. Brandon Mitchell ran for 100 yards last week. He plays Duke. Duke is pitiful against any kind of quarterback whatsoever. Now we have to get to the bad part, which is apparently the 3 turnovers that Mitchell had last week, which doesn't really matter as much in the fantasy side, but matters a lot in the real life, makes us have to re-examine. The coaching staff is re-examining the situation, and they're talking about using a dual quarterback system of Pete Thomas and Mitchell, or going one or the other. So there is some risk. And David's put the pressure on me on this play because he doesn't want me to be wrong, which, I can't know everything. I'm not in there in the meetings to know who is leading the job race. But if you ask me, I think it should be Mitchell against a bad run defense in UNC. It's kind of a rivalry game for the state. I would want Mitchell. Mitchell was their guy going into the year. Mitchell should be their guy coming into this week. I feel completely fine at 5K with him. Now, if he was like 7.5K or 8K or something insane, I wouldn't be behind him as much as I am. But at 5K, what do you got to lose? Who under 5K would you rather have? Who's going to have a better game if Mitchell starts at quarterback?
Maybe not under 5K, but if you go cheap on quarterback, then you can go over 5K, someone who knows going to play. That's the only issue, is that you are throwing, if he doesn't play, or if he only gets you 7 points or 8 points, he's not going to be the stud that you want him to be. And my favorite quote that you said was that how often do we get a glitch in pricing that we can play these sort of guys? I mean, Eddie Lacy, are you kidding me? I mean, Jordan Lynch at the beginning of the season.
No, you're right.
Archer. I mean, you get lots of these chances.
We had that in the Nevada New Mexico game, if I remember right, where everybody was minimum price.
Yeah, Casey Carrier, and so.
Those days are kind of over though, but like what you said is, I'm with you 100%. He is not a must play. He definitely is not a must play. He's a risky, huge upside play.
Well, I'm glad I've talked to you a little bit of sense into you that he does carry some risk. He is a great find though. It was a great find by you. The thing that scares me with this is that the game doesn't start till 3. And obviously lineups lock at 11 or 12 Eastern. So we're not going to know, and the coach basically said this week that he's going to roll them both out there. So you're going to get a quarterback that might play half the game, might play less than half, might play more than half. It's just not a given. But his upside is there. You get a quarterback that he throws a touchdown if he runs for any sort of thing. I mean, this is a guy that was recruited by Arkansas to play. I mean, he's a transfer from Arkansas. Actually played in their basketball team. Did you know that?
College basketball. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know he played on the basketball team.
Oh, did you? So, he's going to be a decent play. I just don't think that you roll into it like, what do you have to risk? Because you could always go cheap at quarterback and go with guys. You have Marquise Lee, and you have Wimberly, and then you have Jamion Lewis, another guy who's pretty cheap. So you've got wide receivers that could produce.
And Laverne Jacobs, I would put him in that conversation.
All right, tell us about Laverne Jacobs.
Laverne Jacobs he took over. we had that issue with Maryland where injuries just completely dismantled that entire team. C.J. Brown is back this week, which makes me wonder what C.J. Brown's effect is going to be on Jacobs. But I really think that Jacobs has potential. I think I'm looking at his stats right here. I think since they went down, in the game that they went down, he had 3 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. The next week, he put up 158 and a 71-yard touchdown against Clemson, who's not, stellar on defense, but they're not bad. And he's coming up against Syracuse, who is one of the worst pass defenses in the league, in FBS, in the whole country. So he has a lot of value. I don't know what C.J. Brown is going to do when it comes to his value, because all of Jacob's stats have come with the backup quarterback. His name's left me for the moment, but they all came on that guy. But I think C.J. Brown is fine if C.J. Brown comes in and plays well. Laverne Jacobs 300 little risks that you're taking with Mitchell, then Jacobs is solid. And then you also have is Sammy Coates in this early slate? Let me look.
Yes.
You have Jamian Lewis at 5,400. You have Sammy Coates at 5,600. I mean, those guys are solid. Sammy Coates and Jamian Lewis, who can do everything, are great plays. If you look at all the games that Texas A&M has played, the number 1 wide receiver against Texas A&M has done awesome things every game for the most part. And so Jamian Lewis should have every opportunity. Tyler Russell's more of a passer. We talked about that. Sammy Coates is the big play guy. I think I pointed out that he leads the nation in yards per catch. Leads the nation. So he's a stud. And he's just kind of growing up right now. And so Tennessee can't stop anybody. So he's a good play at 5,600 too. He's not a must play. You're definitely right, Kitchen. I mean, the risk of if is he going to be the top quarterback or not is definitely valid. I'm totally with you. You're a smart dude.
Oh, stop it. You're embarrassing me. Mr. Tuttle says Coates. He actually misspelled. He forgot the E.
He needs an E.
And his first name is actually Sammie. Who does that? I don't know. Mrs. Coates. That's who.
It messes me up when I'm writing too, because I want to put in Sammy and Sammy Watkins is Sammy. So
Mr. Tuttle corrected himself.
Good job by him.
In the chat. Let's talk about some of the high-scoring games that we're supposed to see this week. Pull up the spreads. You've got Florida State, who's a 35-point favorite over Wake Forest. You have Fresno State, who, this game, the total on this game is 79. They're a little bit under a 10-point favorite against Wyoming, so you've got David Carr in there. Those games are on the road. Boston College is a big favorite. However, unfortunately, FanDuel does not have them. Sad face.
Draft Street does.
How much is Andre Williams on Draft Street?
$15K.
That might just be one of those guys that you have to get in there.
You have to. No, you don't. You don't have a choice. Assuming that this game stays tight enough for the first half, you have to get him in. Amadon is the wide receiver for them. Their top wide receiver is, I think, 11K. I'm not looking at it right now, but I think he's 11K. He is also an option for that game if you're wanting to get crazy.
Oh yeah, I am wanting to get so crazy with that game. No. I don't think I'm going to be rostering Amadon because he's had a few other good matchups that he just didn't do good. I don't know. I'm trying to look up his stats. Anyways, any other games with high totals that you are specifically looking at?
Oh, when I was looking over the totals, Vegas is very smart. I totally am back. I back them, except for when it comes.
Totally.
I totally back them, except for when it comes to SMU because they suck when it comes to SMU. I wish I was a betting man because I would get behind SMU every week to start the season. But I'm looking over the totals, the Wyoming Fresno State is very enticing. 79 points is insane, and both those offenses are really good. Both those defenses are really bad. So it points to a huge shootout. Now that we're projecting it, I'm sure it's going to be like 28-23 or something stupid like that. But that game has all kinds of potential for greatness. FanDuel has done a really good job pricing that game. So it's not like anybody's a slam dunk when it comes to figuring out who's going to be the star. Rufrin, who is arguably the number 2 wide receiver for Wyoming, is priced pretty cheap. He's 6,100, so he's in play. I don't think Heron at 7K is in play. You look at Carr's receiver, Josh Harper's, I believe, 78 to 79. That's tough. And then Devontae Adams, who is arguably, I would call him the number 2 receiver in the country, is 88, I believe, 8.8K. And so he's a really expensive. So if you decide to run Carr and you want to put a wide receiver and you put Adams with him, it's going to cost you a lot. You're going to have to really be smart with the rest of your money. I would rather you use Carr and then forget the wide receivers, just because you saw what Josh Harper did last week. If teams try to take away Adams, then Harper's just as capable to put up huge scores. He had 200 yards and Lord knows, I think 2 or 3 touchdowns last week. Harper did when a team tried to take away Adams. So I mean, it depends on what Wyoming's going to do to try to stop the Fresno attack. Nobody can stop the Fresno attack, but it's just going to be trying to figure out who is going to be the scorer for Fresno. I know Derek Carr is, so it's a safe bet with him.
Oh, you do know that he is.
Yes.
I would agree. I called him David Carr earlier, so I apologize for that. Grant Girton has a question in the chat. Storm Johnson versus Andre Williams. Storm Johnson does have a good matchup tomorrow.
That's a good question. I know that Grant likes to play a lot of PPR sites, so Storm Johnson has more value in a PPR because he's very dangerous in the receiving game, in the passing game. So, yeah, Storm Johnson becomes a viable matchup when he's playing Houston. I would rather have Andre Williams. I mean, why would you want to pass on a guy that's playing New Mexico State? When I look at Houston, I know that they lead the nation in takeaways as of like last week. So they are dangerous defensively. They give away a lot of yardage, but that's because their offense is so pass heavy. They give up a lot of plays to the other defense. They don't control the clock. So, Andre Williams is a beast. He's had like 4 or 5 games of 160 plus yards. He's a tank. 240 pound man running at linebackers that are probably, I don't know New Mexico State's linebackers, but they're probably 230 pounds, 220 pounds. I don't expect them to be able to handle anything that Boston College runs at them.
Solid. That is solid.
Yes, sir.
I love it when you get so passionate. It really conveys confidence to the people constructing their lineup. Can I show you a lineup that I made on FanDuel for the early slate?
Do it.
Fiardo, Bibbs, Roland, who I like probably better than Tevin Coleman. And if you wanted to put a little side bet on that, we can.
Who do you like better than Tevin Coleman?
Roland for Oak State.
Ooh. Well, yeah, I'm okay with that.
But he's $400 cheaper. So that's why I have him. And then Lee, Mitchell, Wimberly. And then I had enough for a nice tight end. I went Coyle. You could also go with Jack Nicholson's grandson. Nick O'Leary, for those of you that did not know that little nugget of info.
Have you seen the son of Clint Eastwood? Is that off the topic?
That's you?
He's like dude, he looks just like Clint Eastwood. When you said, that's what my brain went to, that guy. No, I don't have any. I think that lineup is Studley. It's Studley. Can you throw it back up there so I can look at it again?
Yeah.
So I
Um,
can kind of dissect it. I mean, I know I see Capri Bibbs at 8,100. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Fiardo. That is solid, dude. You have Lee, you have Mitchell, Wimberly to pair with Fiardo, Coyle, who is very active in the passing game with Jalen Strong's injury. Jalen Strong seems to be back. What are you laughing at?
FanDuel chat automatically opens for me. I wish you guys could see it. Some guy just randomly said, "I ate my poop," like right in the middle of everybody just talking about their plays and everybody. This guy just randomly says it. Good old
Yeah.
FanDuel chat, never one to disappoint. But yeah, that's what I'm saying is I would rather come down off Manziel and have a decent lineup, but I don't think that Manziel is a bad play as long as he scores over 50 points tomorrow. I just don't know he's going to do that.
I don't have that fancy capability that you do where you can throw a screen into the shot. But I will say that my early lineup has Manziel. It also has Tevin Coleman, Kelvin Taylor from Florida, who I think is the premier back no matter what kind of failings he had last week. He looked good. He looked good at 3.8 yards carry. I understand Georgia's defense is young and has had trouble against the run all year, and then you run up against Taylor. But that game Georgia was pumped, and Georgia owned that game. And so you can't really judge it. He looked good. He had good cuts. Kind of looked like his daddy. I
Oh
was
my
impressed.
gosh. You're not
I know
bringing
I've
up the genes.
no.
We're not. I just want to. You like Kelvin Taylor at 4,500. So at a minimum salary price, he's not a bad play. He did burn a lot of people, myself
4,500.
included.
He's minimum. He's minimum, and I don't care what you think about Mac Brown. Mac Brown is crap. I know he got a touchdown last week, but he's garbage.
Okay. Can I? I'm going to
He's
present
garbage.
my point to the people out there. Basically, you
This
have
17.
Vanderbilt's defense is. I know that they're playing on the road, but they did get their starting middle linebacker back this week. They got their outside linebacker back last or 2 weeks ago. So they've gotten healthy coming off of a bye week. Georgia's coming off a pretty emotional week, but you have Vandy has had 2 weeks to prepare. The over under for this game is 42. You're not sure that Kelvin Taylor is going to get the lion's share of the carries, and you've got an offensive line that has just been decimated by injuries for Florida. That is why I say that Kelvin Taylor. I'd probably is Jeff Scott even in the conversation in that early slate.
Does your Vandy homerdom come into this decision at all?
Usually I'll err on the other side. Usually I'll err on the other team performing against Vanderbilt because I've been a Vanderbilt fan my whole life. I'm just not on the Kelvin Taylor bandwagon again this week.
He is actually talented. I mean, I didn't want to admit that he was going to be the one that takes over this, but I see this job. But I see that why Florida fans and why everybody was kind of saying this guy's the guy. Mac Brown's not the guy. Kelvin Taylor's the guy, and I can see why. He's skilled. I've seen Vandy play. I know you've seen Vandy play a lot, but I'm not confident.
Then you
they will.
Okay.
It's a home game for Florida. What do you think? Vandy's going to go in there and beat Florida? You really think that's going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen?
I mean, you're acting like Florida. The game is it's a low total. You're acting like Florida has this unbelievable offense spearheaded by Kelvin Taylor. No, I think that I'm not saying that's possible. Or that's not possible. I don't think Vandy's going to win. I think it's going to be the under, and I think that Vandy will cover. I don't think Vandy's going to win. Do I think Kelvin Taylor is going to just run like his daddy? No. No,
Okay.
I'm gonna take the gene pool out of this conversation if you don't mind, and just go off of last week. Who do you think is the better back, Kelvin Taylor or JJ Green? Serious question.
Kelvin Taylor. Kelvin Taylor. We're talking about Georgia's JJ
Yeah.
Green. Are you kidding me? Kelvin Taylor. It's not even close.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think. I mean, I watched that game, dude. I watched Georgia play religiously
I watched
based
that
on.
game. We
Did you
both
really?
watched the game.
No, you did not watch that game. You obviously did not watch that game. I can tell by the fact that you don't believe in Kelvin Taylor that you did not watch that game.
Ben, I watched the game because I had Kelvin Taylor in my lineups. He
No, I
was
know he screwed
frustrating
you.
me.
He had 20 carries. If he gets 20 carries against Vanderbilt, he will crush them.
Yeah. Well, 20 carries for 76 yards. Yes. Give me that 7.6 average all
I'm
day long.
saying if he gets 20 carries, 100 yards, at least one touchdown, he's minimum salary. He lets you open up your wallet for Johnny Manziel. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Do you want to put 25 on that he scores 15 points on FanDuel?
So that's 100 yards and a
Well,
touchdown?
it's a little less. 90 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That's our little side bet.
Put it on the freaking board.
No, we can't say that. We cannot say
can't
that
say
because someone else obviously has that.
Okay. Well, we need a new saying for that crap because I'm going to take your money.
Just say, I'm going to take your money.
I'm going to take your money.
So bad. All right, let's talk about some of the other games out there. The late slated games. Who do you like on the late slate?
Oh, we talked about the San Jose State, or I'm sorry, Wyoming Fresno game. The San Jose State, San Diego State, all these state schools. You know how that goes, right, Kitchen? We come from a state school. Yeah, I like a lot of guys in the San Jose State game. It's a home game for San Jose State. They have Fales, who is playing really well lately with the emergence of Lawson and Winston. He has weapons all across the board. Lawson's improved every week. Every one of those guys is in play. San Diego State is slightly better defense when you look at all the other Mountain West teams than the crud and the crap that is in like Colorado State and that is in Wyoming and Fresno. They have a little bit of a better defense. It's still bad. So I can take. I'm more on the base of. I'm more on the side. I'm sorry, of Fales, Chandler Jones, and Winston, and even Billy Freeman, the tight end, than I am on Jared Lawson, the running back. And I've been on Lawson every week, but I'm going to pull off a little bit just because I think Fales is a star. He's finally got some kind of system going. San Diego State is tough. Now here's the big problem in this. San Diego State could give the ball to Moima the whole game, and if they give the ball to Moima the whole game, it's going to be game over. San Diego State's going to win the game because Moimo's a star. He was a star last year, 1,400 yards and like 16 touchdowns or so. And he struggled through the first part of the year, dealt with some injuries. He's a stud again. So Moima I think he's 8,500. If you're not going to go Bishop Sankey in the late slate, Bishop Sankey obviously being my top running back play, Moima's the guy. So at San Diego State, because San Jose State is as good as they have been on the offense, they've been equally bad on defense. So I like those guys. I'm staying out of Virginia Tech, Miami for the most part, unless you're going to go Dallas Crawford, who's taken over the running back job for the injured Duke Johnson. Do you remember, David, when we struggled over the Dallas Crawford or Duke Johnson?
Oh, I remember your love for Dallas Crawford when I wanted to play Duke Johnson. I have not forgotten that at all.
Oh, it's back. Yeah, Dallas Crawford is a straight line hard runner. He's kind of that kind of player. I think it could go well against Virginia Tech. They struggled with Andre Williams last week, who's the similar kind of back, but Andre Williams has Dallas Crawford by like 50 pounds, so it's not quite the same exact kind of back, but they have similar styles. Texas, West Virginia, that's a very interesting game that is going to fly under a lot of people's radars. West Virginia is playing at home, which is a tough place to play, but they aren't very good against pass. Mike Davis is really cheap, so if you want to squeeze Mike Davis in your lineup, I'm cool with that. Arkansas State at Louisiana Monroe. Colton Browning. If you've read any of these columns that keep flying out, Colton Browning David, you can attest to this. I have been on the Colton Browning bandwagon since he came back from injury.
That
Have I
was
not?
me that told you about him.
Oh, you are so full of junk. You are such crap. I cannot believe you just did that.
Okay.
You
Okay. It
you
was
are
you. It
you are.
was you, Ben.
Uh,
I know you don't like
Thank
to
you.
tout yourself, so I'll tout you a
All right.
lot.
Well, no, when it comes to Colton Browning, I mean, I think he's had 10, 12, maybe 11, 12 touchdowns without an interception since he's returned from injury. They've looked phenomenal. So Colton Browning's in play. I don't think I'd play anybody else from that game. Pitt Notre Dame, I'm staying out unless you can hear if Folston is going to be the starting running back for Notre Dame. If you hear that, if you can find that out, let me know. I think he's a stud at his price across all the sites. Draft Street, he's cheap. He's cheap on FanDuel. He had 140 yards last week and a touchdown. He's in play. If you can figure out if he's going to be the guy, they have just like 4 running backs, so I can't quite get on board with Folsom yet. And what about LSU Alabama, David? What do you think's going to happen in that game? I have the hardest time when it comes to a prime time top tier teams going up against each other. I can't gauge it. What do you think?
Uh, I think I'm staying away from that game from daily fantasy. I'm just going to enjoy the game because
Mm,
anytime you've got two defenses like they have going up against each other, why risk it playing daily fantasy? Don't risk
mm,
it, especially when you have all these other games with not so great defenses, like you talked about ULM and all these random games, especially on FanDuel, where they give you so many different options. So no, I'm going to enjoy the game as an SEC. SEC, y'all. I'm going to
no.
enjoy the game as an SEC fan. I am not going to be having any sort of play on it, which is it's a little different when you're spent the whole season cheering on players because of the guys that you have in there. So no, I don't think that those guys are it at all. Going back to, I want to talk about the Auburn Tennessee game though. Trey Mason, is he priced too high for you? 8,200 against Tennessee.
He's close. I put him. Let's see what I had him ranked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have him as my 5th ranked running back overall. And you look at the late slate. I guess I have him as my number 2 running back on the late, or number 3 behind Mwema and Sankey. He's my number 3 running back on the late slate, or he's the early slate. What am I talking about, David? You're here to correct me from talking about this stuff. So
Easier
I know.
said than done.
So he's my number 3 running back on the early slate. Actually, he is my top. Wow. He's my top running back on the top 25 slate.
That's what I'm wondering about the top 25 slate because your options are obviously limited there. Looking at the Phil Steele predictions, they have Auburn as ranking up 280 rushing yards.
I'm behind that. I'm definitely behind that.
Obviously,
I
he
think
had a
that,
great week. Was it last week?
yeah, he had 4 touchdowns, 168
That's a
yards.
pretty good week.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
against Arkansas. Yeah.
Let's talk though. From there, Grant had a question. Jeremy Johnson back in play. Obviously, they're coming off of a bye. Their prices are not that high. You don't like the SMU offense against Cincinnati because you think Cincinnati is going to absolutely shut them down. Correct?
Nice. I would not say, David, you are a king of this. Let's put all the pressure on me to make the call here. I am not. If you can look at my rankings and you can tell that I am not on the SMU train this week, and I've been on the SMU train for the past few weeks. I'm not on it this week. Cincinnati, whether you can accept the fact that they have played absolutely nobody over the past few weeks, or the fact or the fact that you really believe in Garrett Gilbert and that he's a 5+ touchdown machine, whatever you believe in this game, I'm not going to back SMU this week. Whether it be Jeremy Johnson would be probably the only one I would think about because his price is decent. But Darius Joseph, Jeremy Johnson, Keenan Holman's dealing with an injury. Garrett Gilbert, Traylon Sheed's probably out. The running back, I think he is out. And Cincinnati is the number one pass defense in the nation. So whether did you like that dramatic draw out on that?
No, I did
No.
not like it.
Oh,
It was
okay.
too dramatic for me.
Too
I,
too
I couldn't
choppy.
handle it.
So yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You know how many pass yards they've allowed per game?
Who? Well, tell us who, and then tell us some of their opponents that they have really shut down.
Um, Temple.
Without PJ Walker?
No, with PJ Walker.
Oh, the freshman PJ Walker. Okay.
That was his first game.
Mm-hmm.
The only team that has torched them was Purdue.
Well, there you have it. If it's only Purdue that has torched them with their great offense, then now I see what you're saying about them shutting down a high.
No. Don't say I'm saying they're shutting them down. I'm just saying that all of the SMU receivers, quarterback, everything is priced to the ceiling. So if you're going to jump in this game, you have to feel confident that these guys are going to put up big points. And I don't feel confident they're going to put up big points. Right?
Well,
right?
I mean, obviously you don't. But when you're talking about, I feel like SMU has a little more credibility for what they've done through the air than what Cincinnati has done on defense. So
Okay,
I would err to the side of a guy like Jeremy Johnson. I think he is in play. I think at under 7K, he is absolutely in play.
SMU's success has come against what teams? Do you know? I will tell you. Temple, Rutgers. Do you know where Temple and Rutgers rank in FBS? Bottom of the barrel. So
why are you talking like this? Just make your effing point.
My bad. I'm sorry. For me, it's too much of a gamble that you think that they're gonna torch Cincinnati. Cincinnati might have a really good defense. We just don't know. And to go in and pay the price that you have to pay for SMU players, it's not worth it to me. I'm not gonna risk it.
You're acting like there is such a high price for these players.
They are.
You just got high pitched again. 6,800 for a wide receiver he's the top wide receiver play.
Who?
Jeremy Johnson. At
top wide receiver play for you
for SMU. We're talking about SMU.
I don't think you can call him a top wide receiver play. He's coming off a concussion. Keenan Holman has been money in the back.
I know, and Keenan Holman's coming off of they both said this week that they were 100%.
Okay. And then you have Derek Thompson, and then you have Darius Joseph.
Right. All these weapons are going to get shut down by Cincinnati.
They're not going to
get
shut down.
I understand.
No, I'm going to say 3 touch. No, wait. That's we're going to go with 4 touchdowns, but I don't know who's going to do it.
Okay. Well, and that's Darius Joseph and Jeremy Johnson are tied for third with 9.1 catches per game. So either one of those guys have a good chance. Maybe you take whoever's cheaper. Let's see what Darius is, and he's 7,000. So take your 6,800 guy and take Jeremy Johnson and see if he can get you 2 of those 4 touchdowns that Ben thinks they're going to shut down. So let's talk about some of the random plays that people might not know. That's the thing with FanDuel. There are some guys that you just don't know. You don't know. I mean, Kivani Cartwright or whatever his name is, a tight end for Colorado State. I would have never known that. And, Max Williams, at least he plays for a major conference team. But who are some of those guys? You mentioned a few earlier playing for the teams that people might not know about. Those basically not the BCS teams or BCS conferences.
No, I like Max Williams. He comes from a family of athletes. I think his sister is like a sprinter for TCU, and his dad played football
Okay,
and things like.
Deion Sanders Jr., who plays for SMU, is that actually Deion Sanders' son?
Boy, you're asking. I wouldn't doubt it. I
He's.
mean,
I
Barry
think he's. I
Sanders.
think he's healthy this week. So
I'm not getting on Deion Sanders bandwagon just
okay,
yet. I mean, I like primetime. Don't get me wrong. I'm an old school Falcons fan, so give me Deion Sanders, but
it
I don't know much
is.
about
He is. He is the wide receiver. Deion Sanders for SMU is the son of Deion Sanders Sr. So who played football
the
and
fact that
baseball
the
at
fact that
Florida
he's
State.
playing the fact that he's playing for SMU should tell you how much of a talent level he has. He either is he short? What's wrong with him?
I don't know what's wrong with him.
I mean, why would he be at SMU if he was Deion Sanders' kid and he was skilled? I mean, look at Barry Sanders' kid. At least he's at Stanford. So,
Okay.
I
We've
mean,
talked probably a
yeah.
little bit too much about genetics. So
No, that's important, dude. We're talking about guys that are almost free. And Max Williams is a big boy. He's a freshman. He's a stud. He's cheap. He has all the things you want to look for in a punt tight end. I don't think I ranked him in my tight end rankings though. But when you're looking across the board, you're talking about looking at guys that people don't know. We talked about Laverne Jacobs. Um, Dominic Ruffin is 6,100. We talked about him. I'm trying to scroll through some of these guys that I had ranked. Uh, no, I mean we've pretty much covered a lot of the obvious plays. I don't think there's anybody else that I would really jump on board and get in bed with for any of the FanDuel slates. If you're going to take a risk on a no-namer guy, you've got to really switch sites because I think if you're going to pay minimum, there's enough minimum guys like Laquan Treadwell for Mississippi is Ole Miss is a 4,500 play at the wide receiver slot. You have guys like Jeff Scott and Kelvin Taylor. So if you're going to go cheap, you might as well get a guy that you know is a stud for an SEC team or whatever than to try to grab somebody you never heard of.
okay.
If you're going to do that, you need to do that on Draft Street, is what I'm saying.
I will tell people that Max Dullery, however you want to say his name, I saw in his Friday night game he has a guy. I think it was the not the tight end that we know, not Kyle Carter from Penn State, but the other tight end. He's 3,100. What is his name? Here,
Jimmy
no,
Mundane,
he's actually from Penn State. It's not Kansas State, Penn State.
Jesse
Jesse
James.
James. That's who it is. He's got Jesse
Wow.
James as his tight end. So if you're wanting to follow, maybe he's like baiting us. Maybe he's
I
wanting
don't know.
people to.
I don't know what he's thinking there. That seems like a stupid play to me.
Well, maybe he's like
I'm
getting us to talk about him, and he wants everybody to play Jesse James. And then his
Jesse
Saturday
J.
game, he's going to basically pull out the.
Why would he play Jesse James over Jimmy Mundane? Or even, I mean, 100 more with Justin Sims at Purdue. That doesn't make any sense to me. Or even see if you want to throw a dart into the cloud of nothingness. CJ Uzuma from Auburn, when he plays, is as dangerous as anybody. They just don't pass the ball. I mean, they had 8 passes last week with Nick Marshall. So, I mean, but they could pass against Tennessee. Say Tennessee loads the box, they have to pass. They're going to pass to Sammy Coates and who? Uzuma. So why in the world would he be playing Jesse James? I don't know. That's crazy. It's stupid. Sorry.
I love it when you get so passionate about it. I will tell you, my cheap tight end for Colorado State, not Cartwright. It's the guy that caught all the other passes the time I took Cartwright, and he is at 3,200. It's Crockett Gilmore. So if they run the ball and have some goal line opportunities, he could get something.
If they have goal line opportunities, you know what they're doing right, Kitchen.
Well, I'm talking not goal line, red zone opportunities. Sorry.
Okay.
5 receptions for 39 yards, 3 receptions for 40 yards, and a touchdown the week before that. 3 receptions, 26 yards, 5 receptions and 76 yards, and a touchdown before that. So he's one of those guys who is definitely going to get catches, a handful of catches at 3,200. If you're punting the tight end, that would be the guy that I would probably go for. So there you have it. Any other parting shots that you'd like to give us, like impart your wisdom onto us?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, early slate is a little bit easier to deal with. Fiardo, or I think we've pretty much come to that conclusion, right? Kitchen, Fiardo, or Menzel, and then build from there. If you go Menzel, you need to
Yeah,
pick
I think you pretty
some
much
cheaper.
agreed with me that that's definitely the play you want to take over Manziel.
But if you go top 25, if you play that slate, Derek Carr comes into play, and I think Derek Carr is every much in play as Manziel. Fiardo's not obviously not a top 25 team, but yeah.
I would say that Carr would be the number one play paired with Adams. I would say that if you're playing a top
Woo!
25 game, you have to do that.
I did that last week and it didn't work out.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying. I mean, I was able to pair
you're
enough, but
fine
I
enough going back to Kelvin Taylor. So why not go
no,
back to the well that actually might work this time?
it was fine, except for I used Kevon Cartwright last week and he put up a 0 and I lost by point 0.6 points in my big
Oh,
matchup.
you should have
So
told me that. I told you not to play him.
you played him. What are you talking about? I didn't even rank the
Two
guy and I
weeks
put him.
ago, I played him.
Maybe that's what I'm talking about 2 weeks ago. Maybe I don't know. It doesn't matter if we're talking about parting shots. You really need to focus on the games that you know what's going on. I think with my rankings, I shied more to the early slate. Late slate gets really complicated. I mean, it's going to be really a battle of how much how much of a gambler you are you. Do you want to use a Sankey Carr mix, which is great, but you've got to figure out how to use the wide receivers. There's a lot more cheap wide receivers in the early slate. We talked about them: Mitchell, Coates, Jamie, and Lewis. I mean, whatever you decide to do, you just need to play safe. If you go late and you don't want to go Carr, go David Fales. I'm trying to think of some other things that I want to hit people with. Um, Roland, we talked about that. Huge game for him on the horizon. Melvin Gordon has all the skills to put up a huge game, but he has risk facing Iowa. But I think Mr. Tuttle and I would agree that he's a star. So sometimes you just play the stars and see what happens. He didn't do well last week, but I don't think that was him as much as it was just kind of the fortune of the carries thing. But you know what? Going from there, it's whatever you want to do. Are we going to do a pick five? Or are we
Oh,
closing
we
this
can do a
thing?
pick five to close this out. I will also say that just do your homework. There's a couple of stories that you need to kind of do some research on. Just Google News it. James Franklin going against Kentucky tomorrow is another
Yes.
guy that if he's going to be playing, I think he's only 7K on FanDuel. He would be a pretty good value. You have other stories like Brandon Mitchell, who you need to kind of read up on. Anytime there's like a split between running backs, like the USC situation, you want to read up on it. And once you are informed about it, then you can confidently say that you want Silas Red to be out there. So that's
Hmm.
that's
Whatever. I like Alex Collins as a sneaky play too. People are going to be he was kind of dinged up, but he's definitely probable for this week, and he's the number 3 rushing by carries. I think he's in the top 5 in rushing yards in the SEC, and he's very silently doing this, and he's really cheap, so he's in play.
I don't. So draft day does not have the rapid fire, the pick five for college football, and let's.
Star Street have it either.
They haven't had it in the past. No, they do not have it either. So
Oh, okay.
nope,
It's NBA time of year, so we just kind of have
no
to.
pick five. There's a lot. I mean, basically all they've been doing in the past was like putting the top positions against each other. So No pick five. As far as if you have any specific questions, if you're filling out your lineups tomorrow, tonight, tweet us at InsidersDFS. If you want the experts, then you can tweet at Natural Slugger, and that is Ben's Twitter handle, and we'll be glad to answer some of your questions, specific questions.
Definitely.
Always remember, if you miss a show, that you can go to youtube.com/fantasy insiders to see all the different shows that we've done. So that will do it. Ben, are you going to be playing all the slates tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm definitely going to be playing the early and top 25, but I'm seeing that I have to do some work tomorrow with the other job. I might throw in a late just so I can watch some late games. So, yeah, I'll probably play all of them.
Well, there you have it. This has been fantasyinsiders.com, the Insiders TV Friday night football show. Ben, I felt like you brought it.
I feel like I did too.
You high up in the sky, and now you're not coming down. It slowly turned, you let me burn, and now we're ashes on the ground. Don't you ever say I just walked away. I will always want you. I can never lie.
Oh man.